Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to N3 Prime Time. I'm Angie, and boy, do we have a power pack lineup for you tonight. Gary Franchi has been digging deep, and you won't believe what he's uncovered. First up is President Biden living in a bubble, coddled by his staff and out of touch with everyday Americans? This is a bipartisan concern, and we're asking the hard questions. Next, Democrats are pulling out all the stops to keep Trump off the ballot in 2024. But could this be a twisted abuse of the Constitution? Plus, don't miss our deep dive into Trump's unexpected surge in the polls. His lead is widening, and it's not just his base that's fueling the fire. Oh, and are you feeling the pinch at the pump? We're examining the soaring gas prices under Biden and asking, can Americans afford 4 more years? And finally, Trump's 7.1 million mugshot. Entrepreneurial genius or a legal landmine? But that's not all. Don't forget, we have our fan favorite comment section later on, where we read your thoughts on these burning issues. And just wait until you see who we're spotlighting on tonight's Looking at You segment. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. It's all coming up, so stick around. Now let's get to Gary. Over to you.
Good evening and welcome to N3 Prime Time. And we've got some stories tonight that aren't just headlines. They are the pulse of a nation at a crossroads. We're not merely talking politics. We're talking about the essence of American leadership, constitutional integrity, and the very freedoms this great nation was built upon. From President Biden's arguably insulated lifestyle to Democrats twisting the Constitution to disqualify Trump from the 2024 elections to the skyrocketing gas prices ripping a hole in your wallet, each story represents a concerning trend. These aren't isolated incidents. They're symptoms of a greater ailment threatening to erode the core of our republic. Think about it like this. Imagine the U.S. dollar, once strong, its value has been eroded over time, just like our institutions. And speaking of the dollar, consider this. Since the 70s, U.S. dollar has lost a staggering 85% of its value. Elections are looming, and the government is in a position to print unlimited money, putting us all at risk of rapid inflation. But you know what withstands inflation? Gold. Invest with our friends at Noble Gold Investments, and you'll get a free quarter-ounce gold standard coin. It's time to fortify your future. Visit nextnewsgold.com or dial 877-646-5347. Even if you're not investing, give them a call. Tell them thank you for sponsoring this program. Now let's pivot back to Angie. What else can our viewers look forward to hearing about on tonight's episode?
All right, folks, I've got a slate of stories that will make your jaw drop. First up, Hollywood's heated debate. Roseanne Barr and Rob Reiner are clashing over politics. And it's not just about entertaining us anymore. They're shaping how you think, and that's not a sequel anyone asked for. Next, as autumn leaves fall, your heating bills are going up, way up. We're diving into why the White House is keeping mum as you're set to face a winter of wallet-busting heating costs. Plus, GOP candidate Vivek Ramaswamy is spilling the tea on Ukraine. We've sent them billions with a B, folks. What's really going on? And get this, Burning Man turned into a soggy mess, but you won't believe who the left is blaming for the rain. Yep, Republicans. Time for a reality check, America. Last but not least, President Biden had quite the Labor Day blunder. Or should I say blunders? When our commander-in-chief can't get his facts straight, it's no laughing matter. It's time for a reckoning. These stories matter because they pull back the curtain on politics, celebrity influence, economic pressures, and downright falsehoods that impact you. Gary, let's dive into that first special report.
Ladies and gentlemen, you don't want to miss tonight's exclusive special report, a question so provocative, so divisive, yet it's so essential. It's finally been asked at the White House. Is our commander-in-chief, President Biden, being treated like a delicate toddler by his own staff? Oh, you'll want to hear the White House's response, and it's quite something. And that's not all. Tonight we delve deep into what this question reveals about the state of our union and our expectations of leadership. Are we at risk of infantizing the presidency? Stick around, especially for our powerful final thought. Believe me, you don't want to miss it. It'll be a lightning rod that ignites a long overdue conversation in America. Tonight we peel back the curtain on a question that's been lingering in the air, a question so palpable you can almost taste it. Peter Doocy, a tenacious Fox News correspondent, dared to vocalize what millions of Americans have been wondering. Why does the White House staff treat President Biden like a baby? Now hold on to your seats, because what came next was an instant classic. The White House spokesperson, Karine Jean-Pierre, flatly dismissed the question as ridiculous. Yes, ridiculous, she says. Watch.
President Biden is the oldest president in U.S. history. Why does White House staff treat him like a baby?
No one treats the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, like a baby.
So there's this book that says
That's ridiculous.
When
That's
staff
a
walked
ridiculous
back
claim.
what sounded like a call for regime change in Russia, the president, quote, rather than owning his failure, he fumed to friends about how he was treated like a toddler. Was John Kennedy ever babied like that?
So look, I'll say this. There's going to be always a range of books that are about every administration, as you know, that's going to have a variety of claims. That is not unusual. That happens all the time. And we're not going to litigate those here. That's something that we're not going to speak to. There is one thing that I do want to, because I think I was asked this question last week by one of your colleagues about this particular excerpt that they were referring to. And so I'll say this, we did see the the context of the excerpt, and it seemed to be making the opposite overall point about how the value of his experience and wisdom resulted in rallying the free world against authoritarianism, which is important. We have seen this, you all have seen this, and passage of the most historic agenda in recent history in his handling of foreign policy, like rallying the world around Ukraine, as you just heard from our national security advisor, who laid out in really good questions that your colleagues asked about how the president is moving forward, about Ukraine, about kind of leading into these conversations that he's going to be having at the G20.
What did she say? She said a whole lot of nothing. But we've seen this before, haven't we? A straightforward question deserving a straightforward answer gets steamrolled by a government official who'd rather talk about anything else. But we're not buying it for a second. You see, sometimes the questions we're not supposed to ask are the ones that we need to ask the most. Now, it's no secret that President Biden has had his fair share of gaffes and stumbles, most literal and metaphorical. He's the oldest president in U.S. history, after all. And while age does bring wisdom, it also brings, well, let's be candid here, a certain fragility. And that's not a criticism, it's a fact of life. But should it be a fact of the presidency? The image of the White House staff hovering over Biden like nervous helicopter parents is almost too amusing to pass up. And yet we must ask, where does this parallel parental coddling end and genuine respect for the commander-in-chief begin? The White House would like us to believe it's the latter, but isn't it interesting how the things they call ridiculous often turn out to be the questions they're most uncomfortable with? And speaking of transformations, it brings me to a different kind of transformation that I went through. With the help of the Fat Loss for Life, a body transformation guide, I astonishingly shed over 80 pounds. What guided me through it? The wisdom and direction of Gary Mascione. This isn't just about physical weight, it's about the weight of not asking questions, of not seeking the truth. Start your transformation journey both in body and in spirit. Head over to garystraining.com and use code NNN for a 10% discount. If I can ask the hard questions, so can you. Now back to the heart of the matter. The issue here is more than just the president's personal comfort. It speaks to the deeper crisis in our culture of governance. If our leader needs to be handled with kid gloves, what does that say about the state of our union? A president is supposed to be strong, resilient, and clear-headed. But what we're witnessing here is something else altogether, and it begs the question, are we infantizing the presidency? It's not just conservatives who should be concerned about this. Every American who respects the office of the presidency should want a commander-in-chief who is up to the task, someone who isn't coddled and babied by an overprotective staff. And Ducey's question wasn't an attack, it's a wake-up call, a call for transparency, a call for accountability. And let's take a look at the broader picture here. This isn't just about President Biden. It's about the pattern that we've been seeing for years. The increasingly insulated bubble that surrounds our leaders is starting to bear consequences. The more shielded they become, the less they're in touch with the American people, the very people that they're supposed to represent. So we find ourselves at a crossroads. Do we want a leader who's coddled or a leader who can handle the rigors of the job without needing a safety net every step of the way? These are uncomfortable questions, but they're questions we must ask, because if we don't, we're normalizing a culture of governance that values comfort over competency, that values ease over excellence. And that, my friends, is where the danger lies. Now, my friends, tonight's special report brings to light a glaring issue that we simply cannot afford to ignore. If our president is being coddled, whether due to his age or other reasons, what does it say about the governance of our great nation? We must never normalize a culture that prioritizes comfort and coddling over the resolute and unyielding leadership that America demands and deserves. This is bigger than any one individual. It's about the integrity of the highest office in the land. If we don't demand accountability and strength from our leaders, then we've already lost the very essence of what makes America exceptional. So let's keep asking the uncomfortable questions, because it's through scrutiny, not sycophancy, that we ensure the continued greatness of America. Now, let's head over to Angie to talk about the showdown in Tinseltown. Hollywood Titans ignite a political firestorm. Angie, what's brewing?
Hollywood is at it again. This time it's actress Roseanne Barr and Meathead duking it out over politics. Reiner's been hammering the GOP and President Trump, warning of doom if Democrats lose in 2024. But Roseanne Barr isn't having any of it. She fired back on Twitter, accusing the Dems of corruption and manipulation. Not just that, she's taking aim at media bias and how they've been coddling Biden and the Democratic Party. Hollywood's diving deeper into politics, and it's clear these celebs aren't just sticking to scripts, they're shaping public opinion. So whether it's on the silver screen or Capitol Hill, this show isn't ending anytime soon. Dive deeper, get the whole story by tapping the link in our bio. Gary, a significant blow to Democrats as Trump disrupts their 14th Amendment strategy. What can you tell us?
And now for a special report that you can't afford to miss. The Democrats have cooked up a brand new strategy to sideline Donald Trump from the 2024 presidential race, and you won't believe the desperate lengths that they're going to. Trust me, it involves an obscure clause in the 14th Amendment and a whole lot of political acrobatics. It's almost comical. But in all seriousness, if they pull this off, it'll make us look less like the United States of America and more like a banana republic. The Democrats think that they've found a way to cancel Trump for good. But could this scheme end up backfiring spectacularly? We'll also hear what some devoted Trump supporters are planning as a counter move. So don't go anywhere, because you'll want to stick around for our final thought, and we'll expose how the Democrats might just be playing with fire and they're not ready for the blaze that's coming. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're tired of being told that up is down and black is white, well, you've come to the right place tonight. The Democrats are once again hard at work, this time cooking up a plan they believe will render Donald Trump ineligible to run for president in 2024. But here's the kicker. Their strategy relies on an obscure section of the 14th Amendment that's designed to prevent those who participated in insurrection or rebellion from holding office. Yes, the creativity never ceases to amaze. Now, President Trump took to his Truth Social platform, and he laid out a plan, plain and simple. The 14th Amendment, he says, has absolutely no legal basis or standing relative to the upcoming 2024 presidential election. It's just another desperate attempt from the radical left communists, Marxists, and fascists to undermine a free and fair election. And you'd think, given the 91 indictments that the Biden Department of Justice and his Democrat buddies have thrown at Trump, they would have learned by now. Each indictment, instead of hurting him, actually galvanizes his base. Trump himself warns of the consequences the political elites may face should he regain the presidency in 2024. And speaking of desperate schemes to devalue something's worth, let's talk about the U.S. dollar for a second. Remember how strong it used to be? Well, it has lost 85% of its value since the 70s. Just like how the Democrats are trying to devalue the legitimacy of Donald Trump, our government seems hell-bent on devaluing our currency. Inflation went up 9% last time they started printing money like it's going out of style. Now, you might not be able to control the schemes in Washington, but you can safeguard your own wealth. Invest with Noble Gold Investments. It's the only gold company I trust. Call 877-646-5347 or visit nextnewsgold.com and get a free 24-karat quarter-ounce gold standard coin for free. Now back to our main story. Several Democrats like Senator Tim Kaine and Representative Adam Schiff seem to think the 14th Amendment is their magic wand to make Trump disappear from the 2024 ballot. Senator Kaine, he posits a powerful argument to be made, while Schiff ever so eloquently declares the clause fits Trump to a T. It's not just the establishment figures who are chiming in. Prominent Trump supporters like Amy Creamer have publicly declared their intention to write in Trump should he be disqualified. And you think she's alone? Think again. A user going by the handle of Patriot Hammer expressed the resolve of MAGA voters in no uncertain terms. He said it's Trump or bust. What's even more striking is that a good portion of Trump's base, almost 30%, has said they would write in Trump's name if he isn't the nominee. That's according to Richard Barris of the People's Pundit. Watch.
I have to stress this, Steve. We have been measuring this Trump or bust vote, and we actually started asking people if they would write in their candidate if they weren't the nomination. It's all Trump, Steve. I mean, you're always going to get statistics works this way. You're always going to get a point or two who says, I would write in this person, but it's not statistically significant. With Trump, routinely, no matter what state, no matter nationally, routinely, almost 30% of Trump's voters say they will write his name on the ballot if he is not the nominee. And another 5% say they won't vote.
And just so we're clear, this is a sentiment that's been brewing for a while. Another user, Evan Kilgore, shared back in June that he'll write in Donald Trump come 2024 if need be. Now, let's not ignore the elephant in the room. The Democrats seem to be doing everything in their power to make America look like a banana republic. The constant indictments, the weaponization of constitutional clauses for political ends. What's next? The bottom line is, if the Democrat Party and their media acolytes believe that weaponizing the 14th Amendment will achieve their aim of canceling Donald Trump, they're sorely mistaken. First, it's unlikely that any serious legal scholar will give weight to this far-fetched interpretation of the 14th Amendment. And second, even if they somehow succeed, Trump supporters are prepared to defy this heavy-handed tactic. They are ready to write in their candidate in much the same way that Trump has consistently defied the odds and triumphed. Writer Charles Downs encapsulates this sentiment perfectly. In America, the people, not the deep state, choose the president. If the Democrats think they can simply erase Donald Trump from political existence with their legislative shenanigans, they're not just attacking him. They're attacking the will of millions of Americans who voted for him. And these Americans are not backing down. The message is clear. It's Trump or bust. And if the Democrats don't get that message, well, they're the ones who should be careful what they wish for. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we close out this special report, let's be absolutely clear about one thing. Democracy isn't a plaything for elites to mold as they see fit. Weaponizing the Constitution against political opponents isn't just dangerous, it's an assault on the very foundations of this great nation. The Democrats think they can use an obscure clause to silence the voice of Donald Trump and by extension millions of Americans. But they're mistaken. Trump supporters aren't going anywhere. They're ready to write in their candidate, defy the political elites, and stand up for what they believe in. Remember, in America, the people, not the deep state, not a group of power-hungry politicians, choose the president. The message tonight is unambiguous. It's Trump or bust. And if the Democrats think that they can quietly sweep this under the rug, they better be prepared for a rude awakening, because America is watching and America is ready to fight back. Now, a heads up for homeowners. Prepare for a spike in heating bills this winter. What's driving the cost, Angie?
As autumn leaves fall, get ready for a financial chill. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, heating oil stock is 15% below its 5-year average. Why? Well, let's see. U.S. refineries are hesitant to stock up. OPEC is cutting production, and we're sending boatloads of oil to Europe. Not to mention, refineries are shutting down for maintenance, taking 2 million barrels per day off the table. And where's the White House? Silent. As American families prepare to face a winter of sky-high heating bills, instead of focusing on international politics, maybe it's time to look out for our own citizens. So get those sweaters out. It's going to be a long, costly winter. Dive deeper, get the whole story by tapping the link in our bio. Even CNN can't ignore Trump's rising momentum. What's fueling this unstoppable surge, Gary?
And now a special report that even CNN can't sweep under the rug. The Republican field for 2024 is turning into a one-man show, and that man is Donald J. Trump. He's back. He's stronger than ever. While the other stars in the Republican galaxy seem to be fading fast, specifically Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, numbers don't lie, folks. We've got the polls, the pundits, and even an earthquake in the landscape of American politics involving black voters, plus a surprising endorsement from a young and diverse demographic that have traditionally shunned the Republican ticket. Are we seeing the rebirth of the grand old party under Trump's leadership? Stay tuned for the shocking facts, and don't miss my final thought, what this Trump surge means for the future of America. Ladies and gentlemen, pull up a chair and let's talk about something that even CNN cannot deny any longer. Yes, you heard me right. CNN, the bastion of liberal wishful thinking, had to admit that Donald Trump is not just lingering in American politics, he's dominating it. Roll tape.
Well, Dana, we're seeing what is basically a one-man race for the Republican presidential nomination. Take a look here. Our brand new numbers in this poll conducted by SSRS among Republican and Republican-leaning voters. You have Donald Trump at 52%, majority support. Ron DeSantis is next in line here, way back at 18%. Everyone else is in single digits. This is a one-man race. And look at where we had it in June. And you see the movement here. Donald Trump is getting stronger as a frontrunner. He is up 5 percentage points compared to where he was in June. And look at Ron DeSantis. He is slipping. He's down 8 percentage points from where he was in June. You see little margin of error movement except for Ramaswamy, who's also up 5 points since June, but is still in mid-single digits here. So right now you're seeing a Donald Trump-dominated race, and Donald Trump's getting stronger.
Donald Trump is getting stronger. Even CNN's top political analyst had to recognize the numbers don't lie. He says Donald Trump is getting stronger as a frontrunner. He's up 5 percentage points compared to where he was in June. And let's talk about Ron DeSantis. Once hailed as the future of the Republican Party, the Florida governor is watching his star dim. He's down 8 percentage points since June. Make no mistake, the DeSantis decline and the Trump ascendancy are more than mere numbers. They're a political climate gauge. Now, let's take a brief detour for something important, because it's where your health data, U.S. health data, says that 74% of adults are overweight. And that's a lot of extra weight on the scale, much like the extra political weight DeSantis thought he could carry against Trump. And here's a tip for shedding those unnecessary pounds. I recommend this fantastic supplement loaded with natural ingredients like CLA. It helps you break down fat faster than DeSantis dreams of beating Trump in the 2024 race. You can get it for 51% off today at trimwithgary.com. Go ahead and lighten your load. Now back to the man of the hour, Donald J. Trump. An interactive poll survey revealed that Trump is not just the Republican frontrunner, he's leading in a hypothetical head-to-head with Joe Biden. The poll surveyed 1,000 registered voters and had a margin of error of just 3%. It echoes what we've been saying all along. Trump's momentum is unstoppable. But don't just take my word for it. Richard Barris, the pollster, says this vote is so much younger. It's much more non-white. These are people who voted for Barack Obama at least once. They only vote for Trump. Watch.
Routinely, almost 30% of Trump's voters say they will write his name on the ballot if he is not the nominee. And another 5% say they won't vote. And by the way, for Republicans in New Hampshire and elsewhere, where you think you're going to get away with something like removing him from the ballot, you remove him from the ballot, and the American voter is going to remove you from being one of two, primary parties in the United States. They will disintegrate as a national force. It's over. If you thought Ross Perot was a problem for Republicans, and it took them, 8 years to win back some of the Ross Perot coalition, this vote is so much younger. It's much more non-white. 22% of it is independent. These are people who voted for Barack Obama at least once. They're not going to go back to the Republican Party. They only vote for Donald Trump. It's like 35% of the black vote that supports Donald Trump is Trump only. It's huge. About half of it is half of the Hispanic vote says the same. We've been going over this on the show in detail because it's so much. It's going to take a month to dissect who these people are. But I'll tell you one thing that's very important. They're younger. These are people who are going to be around for a very long time. You cast them away now, and you're finished. You're finished. It's not going to take you a decade to recover.
That's a dramatic demographic shift, my friends. And get this, not only are they younger and more diverse, but they are also Trump-only voters. Almost 30% of Trump's voters would write his name in even if he's not the Republican nominee. Another 5%, they wouldn't vote at all. You remove Trump from the ballot, you remove the GOP as a national force. Just like that, it's over. So what does this tell us? It shows us the Republican Party can't afford to sideline Trump, not if they want to win elections in the future. Now, of course, he brought up Ross Perot from the 90s. Well, this is Ross Perot on steroids. And listen to this. In the demographic of black voters, Trump is set for a major upset. A recent poll shows that Trump is capturing 19% of the black vote. That's a 7% increase from his 2020 share. And Barris suggests that 37% of them would write Trump's name in if he's not the nominee, and 15% wouldn't vote at all. Do you realize how seismic this is? That's an earthquake in the landscape of American politics. Now hold on to your seats, because this is where things get truly electrifying. You might be wondering, how does this 37% of black voters willing to write Trump in compare to his overall base? Well, let me clear the fog. While almost 30% of Trump's overall base would write his name in, a staggering 37% of black supporters say they do the same. That's right. The devotion in this particular demographic is even more potent. Imagine the kind of statement that makes. It's not just an earthquake, it's a tectonic shift that could redefine the landscape of American politics forever. So what's behind this Trump surge? Is it Biden's disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, or perhaps the skyrocketing inflation rates? Maybe it's the border crisis, or the pervasive feeling that the country is drifting without a strong leader at the helm. The answer is simple. It's all of the above. And if you think this is just a conservative fantasy, remember, these are not numbers from Fox News or Real America's Voice. These are numbers coming from CNN and unbiased polling groups, and even they have to acknowledge this shift. The people are speaking, and what they're saying is loud and clear. They want Donald Trump back. So for those of you who thought that Trump was a political flash in the pan, think again. His influence is growing, not shrinking. His base is diversifying and hardening into an electoral ally stronger than the puny opposition it faces. As for DeSantis, or anyone else dreaming of wresting the 2024 Republican nomination from Trump, it might be time to rethink those aspirations. The former president has only just begun to fight, and looks like he's just getting stronger, so don't count him out. In fact, if you're wise, start counting on it. So ladies and gentlemen, we've laid out the facts tonight. Trump's resurgence isn't a fantasy. It's a statistical and political reality. This isn't just about a man, it's about a movement, a diversifying, strengthening movement that's capturing unlikely corners of the American electorate. Biden's series of missteps have opened up a gaping void in national leadership, and Donald Trump is filling it, like it or not. To the Republicans out there pondering a future without Trump, heed this. The former president has become the political axis around which your fortunes will turn. Ignoring this is like trying to paddle upstream without a paddle. You're not going anywhere. And to the Democrats, dismiss these seismic shifts at your peril. Trump's momentum isn't just about 2024, it's about the reshaping of American politics. You want a new normal? Well, brace yourselves, because you're not going to like it. Angie, some strong words from Vivek Ramaswamy against Ukraine's president. What's the context behind this escalating tension?
GOP presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy is blowing the whistle on Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. According to Ramaswamy, Zelensky is holding democratic elections hostage, demanding more money from U.S. and European taxpayers before moving forward. Let's not forget, we've already given Ukraine over $135 billion. That's billion with a B. Where's that money going? The Pentagon itself found a $6.2 billion accounting error in favor of Ukraine, all without Congress's nod. So who's auditing this? Ramaswamy warns that Zelensky isn't the Democratic hero the mainstream media paints him to be. He's banned opposition parties and consolidated media. It's high time for accountability and transparency in foreign aid. Dive deeper, get the whole story by tapping the link in our bio. Affordable gas seems to be a thing of the past. What role is Biden's fuel policy playing in this, Gary?
If you've driven your car lately, and let's be honest, who hasn't, you've probably felt like you're stuck in a bad dream, one where filling up your tank eats up your paycheck. Remember when life was simpler and gas was affordable? That's right, it was just a few short years ago during the Trump presidency, but today we're living in a very different and more expensive reality. You can't afford to miss tonight's special report. We're going to dig into why you're digging so much deeper into your pockets just to get from point A to point B. And wait until you hear our final thought. It's the jaw-dropping revelation you won't hear anywhere else that might just change the way you see the upcoming elections. Now, folks, if you've been traveling the highways and byways of this great nation recently, you felt the pinch. Oh, it's not just a pinch. It's more like a vice grip at the gas pump. Gasoline, the lifeblood of the American economy, the fuel that gets you to work and school or maybe a well-deserved vacation spot, has become a budget buster under President Biden. Don't forget, this is the man who campaigned on empathy and understanding the struggles of ordinary Americans. And what's more ordinary than needing to fill up your gas tank to get to where you need to go? Now let's revisit the numbers. The national gas price is teetering around $3.81 a gallon. So how does this affect you? Well, simple math reveals a very harrowing picture. If you own a car with a 15-gallon tank, you're shelling out over $57 every time you fill up. This is especially grim considering the rate was around $30 under Trump. And we're talking about just one tank. Think about how often you fill up a month, a year. Remember the good old days under Trump? The average was $1.84 in April of 2020, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration. So what changed? The Biden administration would like you to believe that these exorbitant gas prices are the result of complicated global issues outside of their control. But why then did these complicated global issues not raise prices under Trump? Well, the reason is simple. Trump took action, he worked out deals, and developed policies that kept American energy affordable. Whether you loved him or loathed him, Trump put America first, and Americans felt it at the pump, in their bank accounts, and in their overall way of life. In Los Angeles, for example, gas prices hit a third-year high this Labor Day at $5.40 a gallon. Watch.
It's kind of a good time to go electric. Gas prices are reaching Labor Day highs for the third year in a row, and they continue, unfortunately, to go up. Average gallon of gasoline in L.A. is $5.40, $5.36 a gallon in Orange County, $5.30 in the Inland Empire. Pat?
Did you hear how he opened up that clip? Now's a good time to go electric. In California, right? They can't even keep the lights on there. Now, let's stop and catch our breath, because aging catches us all, right? Just like the Biden administration's policies are aging us with stress. But stress no more. Aging causes muscle loss, but you can regain your power and strength. This fantastic product is filled with essential ingredients like MyHMB, creatine, and vitamin D3. It's not just for muscle gain, it boosts your performance and endurance. Get yours at gainwithgary.com with a 41% discount and extra gifts. You see, some things in life can still be safe and simple and effective. Now back to our main topic, Biden's policy failures when it comes to fuel. Biden has, in effect, surrendered American energy independence. Remember how Trump untangled the red tape to unleash the American energy sector? Fracking, which became a boogeyman word for the left, was a critical piece of making America energy independent. Trump wasn't in the pocket of the environmental extremists who seem to have a stranglehold on Biden and his party. Under Trump, we were exporting energy, not importing. And just a quick reminder, under the price of gas, under $2 under Trump. Remember that. Let's talk about Saudi Arabia and Russia. These countries are not our friends. They're competitors at best. They decided to extend their voluntary oil production cuts until the end of the year, and we're feeling the results right here in the U.S. Trump could have stopped them? Maybe, maybe not. But he sure wouldn't have stood around with his hands tied letting Americans suffer. And then there's inflation. Yes, the I word. The silent thief that robs every American household of their hard-earned money. Gas prices aren't rising in isolation. They're part of a broader problem, a broader pattern of inflation that is wreaking havoc on American families. Groceries cost more. Utilities cost more. Even the basic building blocks of a middle-class life are becoming unaffordable. It's true. They want you to forget gas was under $2 when Trump was in office. So who's talking about this in the mainstream media? Well, they're too busy scrutinizing the latest celebrity feud or running cover for the current administration. The fact is, under Biden, the American people are suffering, not prospering. As we move closer to another election year, you have to ask yourself, can I afford another 4 years of this? The Democrats would love to sidestep the issue. They want to talk about anything but the economy, especially gas prices. But it's impossible to ignore when you're deciding whether or not to drive your kids to a ball game or opting for a staycation, because a road trip is financially out of reach. So what is the lesson here? Trump had a policy that worked for the American people, that respected their hard-earned money and the freedom that affordable energy brings. Biden has a policy that works for global interests and environmental extremists, not for everyday Americans who just need to fill up their tank and go about their lives. The Biden administration's record on gas prices, on energy policy, on basic governance is clear. It's a record of failure. The numbers don't lie. And as we've always said, in the end, it's the numbers that tell the story. A story of an America once energized by sensible policies, now drained by a failing agenda of a floundering administration. Despite all this, however, the White House continues to tout lower gas prices. Watch.
If you and I were talking a year ago, inflation would have been 2/3 higher than it is today. The gas price down $1.50.
Gas prices are not where they were a year ago because of the actions that this president has taken.
Doing a lot of investment in the innovations around electric vehicles.
These vehicles are a gift that keeps on giving.
Ladies and gentlemen, the ability to move freely, to travel, to live our lives without being anchored by outrageous expenses, that's not a partisan issue. It's an American issue. Under Trump, the American dream was alive and well, fueled by policies that made sense and respected your hard-earned money. Biden's America, it's an American nightmare, a landscape of dwindling opportunities and skyrocketing costs. As we inch closer to another election, you've got a question to ponder. Can you, your family, your friends afford to hit repeat on this failing track? Our final thought tonight is this. Use your vote to demand better because the American dream runs on more than just gasoline. It runs on sensible policies and leadership. Don't let that dream run dry. Now, Joy Behar points the finger at Trump for recent Burning Man catastrophe. What's the story behind her claims, Angie?
The Burning Man festival in Nevada turned chaotic due to heavy rains and flooding, and guess who the left is blaming? That's right, Donald Trump and the Republicans. Joy Behar, the talk show host, points her finger at climate change, saying Republicans are at fault. But let's get real. Blaming natural events like flash floods, wildfires, and hurricanes on climate change is nothing more than alarmist rhetoric. Fossil fuels, which Behar criticizes, power about 80% of our society. Without them, America would grind to a halt. Rather than pushing a radical Green New Deal, we need sensible solutions that balance economic growth and environmental care. Stop the blame game. It's time for realistic action, not political stunts. Dive deeper. Get the whole story by tapping the link in our bio. Gary, I hear Trump's mugshot merch is causing quite the stir among Democrats. What's behind the unexpected reaction?
America, you won't believe what we've got for you tonight. Imagine you're arrested, your mugshot is taken, and then someone tells you that you don't own your own face. Sound insane? Well, it's not just a hypothetical. It's the latest saga in the never-ending quest to penalize Donald Trump. The Democrats are trying to charge him over what he did with his own mugshot from Georgia. Oh yes, it's another unbelievable tale of overreach, and you don't want to miss our in-depth analysis. Coming right up, we'll discuss everything, the law, the money, and the audacity. And you don't want to miss the final thought. It might just change the way you think about individual freedom in this country, so grab a seat. This is a report that you'll want to see to believe. Now let's dissect this for a moment. Donald Trump was handed a mugshot, a photo that for most people would be an embarrassing or even career-ending moment. But in classic Trump fashion, he turned the situation on its head and made it an emblem of resistance. He had the audacity to print it on T-shirts, mugs, and bumper stickers attached to the spirited rallying cry of never surrender. We're talking about the epitome of the American entrepreneurial spirit here. In the span of just 72 hours, the Trump campaign managed to pull in a staggering $7.1 million in revenue from this merchandise. This is what you call making lemonade out of lemons. But wait a minute. Here come the Democrats and their seemingly endless bag of nitpicking tricks. Legal experts, fueled by clear partisan motives, are alleging that by capitalizing on this photograph for his merchandise, Trump may have crossed some legal line. They argue that the Fulton County Sheriff's Office, the organization that captured the notorious photograph, should technically have legal ownership of it. Let's pause now to think about just how ludicrous this all sounds. A law enforcement agency takes a photograph, a mugshot, no less, and suddenly they own your face? They have the right to dictate how and where it can be used? I mean, is this even America anymore? Now, these experts and scholars from the University of Georgia School of Law's Journal of Intellectual Property Law are saying that the author of the mugshot photograph is the law enforcement agency. Oh, fantastic. So what's coming up next? Are the police going to start copywriting traffic light surveillance footage? Are we going to see watermark police sketches on the news? But wait, you ask, what about the idea of fair use? Well, the Trump campaign didn't significantly alter the photograph. Well, they did remove the badge, but does that even matter? Well, Dean Obadiah of MSNBC argues that the campaign cannot claim fair use simply because the photograph wasn't drastically changed and was, heaven forbid, used for making money. But isn't that the whole essence of entrepreneurship? Isn't using available resources to generate revenue exactly what makes this country great? Now, let's pause the narrative for a moment because you need to hear this. Life is unpredictable. You can go from selling campaign merch to facing a ridiculous legal battle overnight. And it's not just about politics or mugshots. It's about being prepared for anything life throws your way. And this is where My Patriot Supply comes in. With their 3-month emergency food kit, when you face life's curveballs, don't be the one left without a game plan. For a limited time, head to preparewithgary.com for a special 25% discount on your kit. Now back to the subject at hand. So where does this leave us? Trump's key advisor, Chris LaCivita, he took to Twitter to make it very clear that if anyone tries to raise money off Trump's mugshot without prior permission, they're going to face legal action. So if the Trump campaign is willing to go the distance to defend its own right to use the image, why shouldn't that right be universally recognized? Meanwhile, the Fulton County Sheriff's Office is teetering on the edge of a decision. Should they press charges and try to stake a claim on that $7.1 million? Well, Professor Betsy Rosenblatt suggests they might be hesitant to dip their toes in these muddy legal waters. She suspects they may avoid the expenses associated with pursuing a copyright case, but let's not forget Fulton County Sheriff Patrick Labatt. The man is desperate for funding, so desperate that he's been begging for resources to fix hundreds of toilets and sinks. And here comes the kicker. According to some opinions, the Fulton County Sheriff's Office might actually decide to claim that revenue essentially because they're strapped for cash. Imagine that, using legal maneuvering to grab money they didn't earn just because they're bad at budgeting. The situation isn't just about a mugshot or copyright laws. It's a testament to the ever-encroaching reach of government and legal bureaucracy into our personal liberties and our entrepreneurial freedoms. It's an alarming indicator of just how far we've deviated from the principles of freedom and individual responsibility that made this country what it is today. So let's wrap this up. This isn't merely a story about Donald Trump. It's a story about us, about the idea of America, and about the absurd lengths some will go to undermine the freedoms we hold dear. It's about the questions of who really owns your image, your life, and by what twisted logic can someone else claim ownership over something that is personal as your own face. And more importantly, it highlights the moral bankruptcy of a system that allows such nonsense to even be considered. This, ladies and gentlemen, is where we are. And it's time we take a hard look at the path we're headed down. So ladies and gentlemen, what we've unpacked today goes far beyond a mugshot, far beyond Donald Trump. It touches at the very core of American freedom. When the government can claim ownership of your image, your likeness, what's next? Your thoughts? Your words? And when experts in legal academia support this theft under the guise of intellectual property, we must ask ourselves, where does it end? What you've heard tonight isn't just alarming. It's a clarion call for everyone who values individual liberty. When the state's needs can so easily supersede your own right to your image, we've reached a dangerous precipice. We're looking at the erosion of personal freedoms and the essence of entrepreneurial spirit that this country was built on. This isn't just Donald Trump's fight, it's America's fight. Don't sit idly by as we inch closer to a reality we won't recognize. Take note, stay alert, and most importantly, never surrender your rights. Angie, President Biden's latest speech has left many Americans scratching their heads. What are the details?
President Joe Biden's Labor Day speech in Philadelphia was riddled with inaccuracies, leaving Americans wondering, can we trust this administration? First, he couldn't even remember which state elected him to the Senate, incorrectly saying it was his hometown of Scranton, Pennsylvania, instead of Delaware. Then he botched the date of his own inauguration, stating it was January of 2020, not 2021. But it doesn't stop there. Biden also boasted that his economic policies are working. What a joke. Inflation is skyrocketing at almost 16%, and grocery bills are up nearly 20%. American wallets are hurting, yet Biden claims he's cut the deficit by $1.7 trillion, a blatant lie. That national debt has surged by nearly $2.5 trillion under his watch. It's time to hold Biden accountable for his falsehoods and economic missteps. Americans deserve better. Dive deeper, get the whole story by tapping the link in our bio. That's all the news I have for you tonight. Now back to Gary with your comments from the comment section.
Welcome to the N3 Primetime segment we call the comment section, where we look at your comments, your unfiltered, unsanitized opinions on what's happening in our great nation. Did your comment make the cut? Well, our comments tonight come from our video titled "What Gingrich Just Said Will Make Trump Fans Cheer." And my oh my, your comments have been lighting up like fireworks on the 4th of July, so let's get into it, shall we? First up, Susan says, "We the people are the movement. Trump is just our voice. We are sick of our corrupt government. He is the one standing for us." Well, a standing ovation for Susan, because let's be clear, folks, this movement isn't about any one man, not even Donald J. Trump. It's about you, it's about me, it's about us, true Americans who are utterly fed up with deceit and decadence emanating from Washington, D.C. Trump is the megaphone, but we are the message. Remember that. Next up, we have J.R. Chance, who says, "So many Americans are praying for Donald J. Trump. Prayer is powerful. God bless America and President Trump." Amen, J.R. You know, they tell us to keep God out of schools, out of public spaces, heck, even out of our own homes if this progressive mob had their way. But let's not forget, this nation is a nation under God. Prayer moves mountains. And let me tell you, the mountain of bureaucracy in Washington could use some shifting. Onward we go. And here is Dean. He says, "Even if Trump were to say, 'I've had enough,' I myself would understand. He has been put through so much for a man that could enjoy his family and his wealth. He has my vote if he continues Trump 2024. Let's face it, Dean, got a point. Trump gave up a life of luxury to be dragged through the mud, to be slandered, to be impeached twice, for heaven's sake, all because he loves this country. And if he were to say, 'I've had enough,' who could blame him? But I think we all know he's not that kind of fighter." Next, we have Deborah, who says, "Trump just keeps going through all of this and keeps getting stronger." Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You have caught on. They are throwing everything at him, fake news, sham impeachments, phony investigations, and he comes out the other side stronger than before. It's like a superhero origin story, except it's real life. Last but certainly not least, we have Gary, who says, "If all else fails due to leftists, I call all to write Trump on the ballot, Trump 2024. Oh yes, what a move that would be, folks. As we said earlier in this report, 30% of his base said they would do just that. So could you imagine the look on their faces when they see a flood of write-ins, each one etching away at the illegitimacy they're trying to create? Sometimes the best message is the one they never see coming. Well, that wraps up this segment of the comment section, but stay tuned for an upcoming segment looking at you. We're shining a spotlight on someone who is doing remarkable work but isn't getting the attention they deserve. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Welcome to our special segment, Looking at You. Tonight we cast a spotlight on someone who isn't afraid to pull punches or rock the boat. I'm talking about none other than Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida, a man who stands out in a Congress full of people who'd rather just blend in. Recently, Gaetz came out with a battle cry that should resonate with every conservative American. He said, "I've traveled the country, spoken to so many Americans. They're disillusioned with House Republicans right now." He goes on to criticize his own party, saying House Republicans haven't put up a substantial battle to defeat the worst elements of the Biden administration. You heard that right. And isn't he onto something here? You don't have to be a political strategist or a scientist to see that the Biden administration is making moves that flout conservative principles left and right. Whether it's spending like there's no tomorrow, ignoring the border crisis, or failing spectacularly in Afghanistan. Watch.
I have traveled the country and spoken to so many Americans. They're disillusioned with House Republicans right now. They think that we have not put up a substantial battle to defeat the worst elements of this Biden administration. I worked very hard in January to develop a toolkit for us to be able to reorient the House of Representatives in a productive and positive way. I don't believe we've used those tools as effectively as we should have. And when we get back to Washington in the coming weeks, we have got to seize the initiative. That means forcing votes on impeachment. And if Kevin McCarthy stands in our way, he may not have the job long. So let's hope that he works with us, not against us. But we've got contingency plans in the event that he's not as productive.
Matt, I'm so glad to hear you say that, because it just frustrates me. And we give platform to a lot of folks out there, House Freedom Caucus guys, everybody. But we hear McCarthy out there saying, well, he hasn't done anything yet. Biden hasn't done anything yet to reach the level of impeachment, or we're working on it. Enough of that. You guys clearly have enough evidence. We've all seen it. We've heard it. It's time to do something about it. And I think the voters are really getting frustrated.
So where are the House Republicans in all this? Well, Gaetz makes it clear they're not doing enough. Let's be honest, he's hitting the nail squarely on the head. We sent these individuals to Congress to represent us, to fight for us, and yet what we often see are talking points stalling and a worrying lack of action. Gaetz is calling for action and leadership. That means forcing votes on impeachment. Yes, impeachment. This isn't a term to be thrown around lightly, but in times like these, it's an option that must be on the table. If there ever a time to use this political tool to challenge a failing administration, it is now. The lack of drive from the Republican leadership's specific ally, Kevin McCarthy, isn't just disappointing, it's unacceptable. Gaetz didn't mince words. He said, if Kevin McCarthy stands in our way, he may not have the job long. That's not a threat. That's a promise to the American people. A promise that if current leadership won't do its job, won't represent us or fight for us, it's time for new leadership that will. It's not divisive. It's the kind of accountability that has long been missing in our halls of government. And let's talk about contingency plans. Matt Gaetz says we've got contingency plans in the event that he's not as productive. Now, that's a man with a strategy, not just words. It's about time we had politicians who plan for action and don't just play lip service to it. So, looking at you, Representative Matt Gaetz, this is what we need. Someone who isn't just part of the Washington machinery, but is willing to call it out, shake it up, and put it back on course. The Republican Party and America needs more leaders like Gaetz, individuals who don't just play the political game, but change it for the better. And that's why we're looking at you, Matt. Ladies and gentlemen, as we wrap up tonight's show, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned. What connects all these stories from Hollywood's grandstanding to the chaos at Burning Man to the question marks over Biden's competency is a disturbing trend of distraction and misdirection. America is like a household where the parents are too busy arguing to notice that the house is falling apart. They're either unaware, incapable, or simply don't care that the bills are piling up and the foundations are cracking. Let's get real. Are leaders, Democrat or Republican, actually serving our interests? From Biden's gaffes to Hollywood's intrusions into politics, we're seeing distractions from the true issues facing our nation. Energy costs are skyrocketing, but our focus is directed towards political sideshows. Billions are sent overseas without accountability, while at home, we're questioning the fitness of our own commander-in-chief. As for Trump's influence, whether you're against him or for him, his staying power reveals something crucial. A growing section of America is frustrated. They're not buying what the establishment's selling. And the establishment's answer? Twist the Constitution. Challenge the basis of our republic, just to keep their grip on power. So I leave you with this thought. When you strip away the noise, what's left are the issues that genuinely affect your life, your family, and your country. It's your responsibility to sift through the clamor and demand focus on what truly matters. So as we draw the curtains on tonight's show, a hearty thank you to Angie for delivering those insightful news briefs. We appreciate your dedication in keeping America informed. And to those of you who engage with us in the live chat, thank you for adding depth to tonight's discussion. Your voices matter. They are the lifeblood of a functioning republic. And before we say goodnight, a special nod to our sponsor, Noble Gold Investments. If you think of your financial future as the foundation of your home, just like the foundations we've discussed tonight, they're critical for our country. In a climate of shaky leadership and looming inflation, gold remains the bedrock that you can count on. And with Noble Gold Investments, you can secure one of these bad boys, a free quarter-ounce gold standard coin, and stabilize your personal foundation. Visit nextnewsgold.com. That's nextnewsgold.com. It's linked down below. Or just give them a call, 877-646-5347. And if you're not investing, that's the number right there, 877-646-5347. Call them and tell them thank you. Tell them Gary asked me to call. Gary told me to call you guys and thank you. They would really appreciate that. It's because they're the gold company that I trust, and you should too. So thank you all for tuning in to this edition of N3 Primetime. Remember, you're not just spectators, you are the key to making America great again. If you found value in tonight's show, share the link and tell a friend. Together, we build a community of leaders and not followers. I'm Gary Franchi, and my goal is not to make you a follower, but to empower you to become a leader among the people. Good night, America.